going on, Buff Nation? Welcome back to another video.
Make sure all that camera guys get them. They're doing all the hard work.
So after a few lost skid here, the haters are starting to flow out with Coach Prime saying, look, I knew it was over. Coach Prime's a loser. It is what it is, trying to really bring down the hammer. But there is some things to be excited about for Bucs fans. There is some things to be positive about. And Coach Prime started off the press conference with that positivity saying, look, I know a lot of people can feel like, hey, things aren't going the right direction, but I wanted to give the kids a reason to believe, like, hey, we are moving in the right direction, and read off a few stats. So we'll show that clip here in just a moment. And then he also complimented the defense a little bit more because somebody said, look, they're starting to click. They're starting to figure it out. And what's kind of ironic, I mentioned that a few videos ago that, hey, look, they are looking better. And somebody was like,
they gave up 400 yards.
Sometimes the stats don't tell you everything, ladies and gentlemen. They have looked extraordinarily better from where they were just 3 weeks ago, where we were discussing whether or not Charles Kelly would be on the hot seat or not. So they have moved strides and bounds. They're hitting harder. They're causing turnovers. You have to be excited with how the defense is played. Now, look, we just see the offense, that offense we saw the first few weeks, to complement the defense that are starting to show up. And I'll show you that clip here in just a moment. And then he kind of gets a little snippy with one of the reporters because everyone's trying to figure out the Sean Lewis, Pat Schumer situation, trying to uncover what really happened, where are we moving forward with that. He shut it down on Saturday, so this kind of gives you a reason why he was a little snippy of like, I'm not giving you anything here. They're trying to reel him in, trying to bait him. He wasn't having it. But let's show you that clip first of the positive stats, going over of how well the defense is. When you listen to these stats, like, man, the defense actually is showing out. Talks a little bit about the offense as well, but take a listen right now.
Team yesterday, and I wanted to share them with you. 18 turnovers defensively, tied for fourth in the country. 8 fumbles recovered, tied for fourth in the country. 10 interceptions, tied for seventh in the country. 23 sacks, tied for 12th in the country, and a 36% start rate in the red zone. 14th in the country. And offense through 9 games, I'm comparing this to last year at this particular time. I think we're averaging 16 more points of game and almost plus 86.5 yards a game. Passing-wise, it was 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions at this point a year ago. Now I think with 24 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, plus 1,100 yards, almost 1,200 yards. We lack in rushing. At this point last year, at 1,024, we're minus 402. So we're suffering in that aspect. But there's a tremendous amount of positives that we must glean on with these young men because they're playing their butts off. And like I reiterate today, it's no quit in them. And that's one thing that draws me closer and closer to them, and I love it. That is no quit in them. They have not shut it down. They're still fighting their butts off today.
And this goes back to me saying that the defense has looked exceptional. You had 4 turnovers against that UCLA team, and you just you weren't able to capitalize on any of that. That's not a hate on on the defense. Of course, they're going to get tired and get wore down, and the UCLA's offense is going to start to turn up. But if you see there's been 4 turnovers and a damn near half, you would think that team is going to be up by, I don't know, maybe 2-3 touchdowns at that point, but they weren't. They only had 6 points. So, again, that's not a knock towards the offense. It's simply the defense is starting to do their job, and they're doing it very well. And then offensively, again, he reads those numbers off to remember how far Colorado has come, to remember where the team was last year, to the massive flip and massive change. And I know haters are going to come on here and say, oh, now he's backpedaling. Now he's saying, look at this, look at that. It is what it is, right? It's important to, you want to be confident, you want to be positive, you want to be moving in the right direction, but sometimes you get punched in the face, you get humbled, and you got to be able to readjust. You got to be able to reset that mindset of like, look, I know I push you guys. I know I call you out. I know I get frustrated with production on a football field, but it's also important to remember how far you've come. Appreciate where you're at. Appreciate what you've been able to do. And I think that's important there for him to go over that number. And then again, speaking about the defense, because again, I'm kind of really heavy on how well they've been performing. Somebody asked about, what's clicking, what's going on. I think he nails it perfectly with his response.
That's the second week in a row that the defense has taken a step forward. What do you think has been that switch lately?
Excuse me?
What do you think has been the switch to get the defense more productive?
Just starting to understand what the expectation. Defense is always a little harder to get going than offenses. I mean, because you're trying to stop somebody instead of somebody. It's like you're trying to stop me from getting to that darn whiteboard, and instead of, that's kind of tough. When you are trying to, the person that's offensive usually have much more success early on. The defense is getting it. They are understanding the scheme. They understand the expectation, and they have consistent energy. Like those guys are just built different, man. I mean, I love it. Not that they're built different than total offense. They as men, as football players, they're tough nosed and tough minded. And when we get everybody on the same page, it's going to be extraordinary. I like what I see in practice. I like what I see in film room. Even the mistakes we make throughout the game is one guy here and there, and we could correct that.
The defense is starting to play in unison, starting to trust one another, starting to believe one another, right? If I go here, I trust, so-and-so to have my back. He even showed a video today in one of the team meetings of a Formula One racing car coming in for a pit change, get the tires changed, and he's asking the players, like, what did you see? This is the second time that he showed the team that. He goes, what do you see there? And they talk about the crew and how well the crew looks, right? And Coach Prime goes, well, you didn't know what the driver did. What did the driver do? Let me show that clip here for just a moment because it connects back to, I believe, just how the defense has been in unison and being that driver and finding its spot. Take a listen.
5 heartbeats. I've watched it about 100 times, but every time I watch it, I see something different that I hadn't seen before. Some of you guys that like the movie Life, I know Hart likes that movie, and he's seen a million different things when he watches that movie that you hadn't seen before. But the true thing that I saw after watching that countless and countless and countless numbers of time is the driver. No one coming in on the driver. None of this works unless he gets to his spot. He had one assignment, right? I got to get to my spot. When he got to his spot, that allowed everyone else to do their jobs. If you don't get to his spot, none of this works. What's your spot? What you driving? If you get to where you're supposed to be, everything else works. If you do what you're called to do, everything else works. If you trust your coaches in just alignment and assignment, energy, focus, determination, all the stuff that you just told me, it works. But you got to get to your spot. You're the driver.
This is also why I love Coach Prime. Just getting those little stories, man. I was watching and going, right? I mean, it makes sense, right? It just kind of clicks when he says it that way. Like, hey, be the driver, right? Be the guy. Just get to your spot and let everybody else do their job. When you can just be the driver, control the car, do what you do well, and trust the guys around you are going to get the car up and put the 4 tires on, you will do your job well. If you're concerned with what everybody else is doing, not only will you not do your job well, but the other person's still not going to be doing their job well. So now you've got double the trouble. Find your spot. And I feel like that's what the defense is starting to do. They're finding their spot. They're hitting people hard. They're trusting in their ability to get the job done. And it's starting to pay off in the football field. Again, just if we get that offense to complement the big turnovers, to complement the momentum change, this team's going to be dangerous come next year in the Big 12. I keep saying it, and I say it because I believe it. Now let's get into the spiciness here. Again, this reporter tries to continue to stir something up with this offensive coordinator change. Coach Prime, again, is just not having any of it. Take a listen to what he had to say when asked about it.
You as a dad and as a coach. First, the coach question. As far as you know and care to say, is the play calling arrangement still going to be the play calling arrangement on offense?
Are you the guy that Shador was?
Am I the guy?
That's you? Is
I'm
that
probably
you?
that guy, yeah.
It's so funny that I didn't know that, but from your line of questioning, like how you came with it, it's like something clicked in my head and say, that's the guy. And I didn't even see the press conference. I just saw him laugh and say, come on, dog. Whatever.
It was a good stiff arm. It was good.
Yeah. I passed that. Let that go, man. Just let it go. You barking up a tree that you ain't gonna get up. Just let it go. We're some happy people right here. We're ecstatic. We're blessed. We're highly favored. We're not where we want to be, but we ain't where we used to be.
That's true.
And we're going in the right direction. So we're good. We're not. That like controversy and that stuff. We trying to raise these kids, man. Yeah. Grown folks' problems that don't help kids.
Speaking.
Look, he's reading the headlines, right? He knows any which way that he goes, it's going to be spun some kind of way. Doesn't matter what he says. He can say, hey, Pat Schumer's doing a great job. He's getting things figured out. Somebody's going to say, Sean Lewis is out of Colorado. No shot he stands a chance here, right? He understands how just how viral his words can be and what it would do for what he's trying to say. And I genuinely feel like, look, we're moving in the right direction. I'm trying something here, trying to figure it out, but he can't say that, right? I think it's like, look, I'm trying to figure out, is it an offensive coordinator issue? Is it a play calling issue? Is it a personnel issue? And sometimes you have to make drastic changes to find out where the area is. If you make small little nicks and crannies here, you may not see what the ultimate problem is. So if you throw something completely off track there to throw it off completely, maybe you're just trying to find a problem. And that's what, look, he can't come out and say that sometimes because of how it could be spun. He was even asked a question. Somebody asked that question a little more politically, right? Some young lady asked, the production, how are things going offensively? And you see him go to answer and he goes, thanks God. I was going to say something wrong there, because he understands, like the media will try to spin it some kind of way. And sometimes I think he doesn't mind feeding into it because he knows that, look, it's going to be what it is. And I don't mind getting a little publicity about that, but he's not trying to drag any of his coaches, which I feel like he saw that happen when the initial news came out, when, again, nobody had any reason to believe what happened. All we know is there was a change, and it led for, anybody to believe or do whatever it was. Most of the time, these changes could happen. You may not even hear about it. But with Coach Prime in Colorado, it's hard not to hear about what's going on. Somebody sneezes the wrong way, you're more than likely going to hear about it. Hope you guys are enjoying this content. Be sure to smash the like button. Let me know down in the comments, how you feeling about this Arizona game coming up this week? Feeling like an upset? They just knocked themselves in the top 25 after a big W over UCLA. So love to get your comments. Be sure to, again, to subscribe. We're on the way to 2,000 subs, and drop a like. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.